Hello. It's Catherine Chapman here, and welcome to another vlog. And I am super excited to have, and then I go to point at you, and you're always the opposite direction to whichever way I point on my screen and everyone else's screen, but the lovely Laura Husson. So thank you for coming to join us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be on with you. And like, for me, I feel like I can't even tell you which side to point, but when you pointed to the middle, like that was where I was. So
that was where you, that way.
Yeah, that one. That's what I see anyway.
That's where you are on my screen. So that's fine. So lovely, Laura. You are, if anyone wonders what I'm doing, my notes are up here. Subconscious transformation coach with intuitive superpowers is what I've written here. Creator of Business Beyond Belief podcast, and now the new Totally Laura podcast. It was on your birthday was released, which is really fantastic. Your flagship program, the Shift Sessions, which I've been privileged enough to go through, and then onward to the Shift Method. Come on, I can't wait. It's amazing. Mama, wife, sister, daughter, an island lover.
Oh my gosh, sounds like quite a lot.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot. I'm like, whoa, that's a busy schedule.
I know. No wonder we feel like this.
How does she do all that?
She's good, isn't she?
Yeah, wow.
Fantastic. So I know that you didn't leave school going, I'm going to be a subconscious transformational coach. That's what it is. That's what I'm going to do. So obviously not since you left school, but how have you come to Totally Laura today?
Oh my goodness. So I do know that when I was asked, you know how older generations tend to ask our kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I used to always say, my job hasn't been invented yet, which like at the time sounded really precocious. And now it's like, wow, I was right. There was no internet. There was no websites, which is obviously what I was doing to begin with. And now here I am in this land of subconscious transformation, which I'm obsessed with. And it's been quite the journey of really having to take one step after another, because I was a teacher before. That's what I was like, well, I know they used to have that advertised slogan that those who can teach. And I always used to joke, it's like, well, those who don't know what to do, teach. Because that was certainly true in my circumstances. And I know that's not true for everyone, because there are amazing teachers and I know so many of them. But for me, teaching was like, okay, I really want to be my own boss. I always knew that. And I was like, well, if I'm a teacher, I kind of am boss of my own classroom, kind of. And it feels like I have a little realm with minds to shape and, you know, lives to change and impact. And that was the thing that was most important to me. And it's not until now that I see, you know, now with the Shift Method certification, I have a new group of people whose lives I get to change and impact. And I see how similar it was and all the boxes it was ticking for me in being a teacher. Yeah. So it's so incredible to just know that the journey has never been clear. It never was clear. And it's really only been, I mean, I left teaching in 2010. And so it's so crazy to me that now here we are almost 10 years on, year 11 of me running an online business. And it's only in the last 18 months to 2 years that I've really found my oh, this is me. This is my path.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, oh no, this is what my job is. I've invented this job. Oh no, hang on. This is the job I've invented.
Yes. And there was a lot of respond mode, right? There was a lot of people saying, oh, you built this gorgeous website for your business. Could you build me a website? And I was like, well, I guess I could. And I kind of followed a lot of those nudges to begin with, because I didn't have a thing that was like, no, this is what I do and this is what I stand for. I was kind of the yes girl. And I said yes to lots of things. And lots of those yeses were very lucrative, right? Building websites turned out to be a really profitable move on my behalf. And my husband then came full-time into being an online business with me. But that was 2013, May 2013. So we're now over 7 years down, him being full-time employed by my business too. But building websites was never the thing that I knew was going to change the world. So, but it was a necessary stepping stone. So
and it's lovely, isn't it, that you've got to use the teaching and the skills that you've got from that and all the tech stuff to almost put it all in together.
Yes, it's been, like I say, it's been quite a confronting journey, because there's a lot of the time where I felt like a real fraud, because I was like, on paper and on, looking at my glossy website from when I was the website girl, you would literally think, oh, well, she's got everything. She's married, she's got kids, she's got this business and the elusive 6-figure business and all of that stuff. But I was so unfulfilled. I was so like, oh, this just really feels like having a job still, because I still had clients who needed certain things by certain dates. It wasn't my own boss. I was at the whim of everybody else's needs and schedules.
Yeah. Oh, it's an interesting thought. I like that. I like throwing that into it. Even though you are your own boss, you're still at the whim of others' schedules. And I love that you've got to use. I often think about like my nurse training, and I often think, I don't want to waste it, because I spent so much time training and so much time working in that job, and it's lovely to be able to bring all those skills into new versions of yourself every time.
Yeah, and I think it's just such a testament to the fact that we don't always know, we don't always know why we're heading down a certain path, but somewhere down the line it always makes sense.
No, absolutely. It's funny that I always thought that I was going to be a nurse forever, ever in a day. And I did this training. I actually took a lot for me to let go of nursing, because I felt like I'd put so much into it. But to be able to bring it with me and into new versions of business and whatever else,
all the things.
No, absolutely. Oh, it's fantastic. Isn't it interesting where these winding paths take
always we have to just always stay open. I think that's the thing, is like when we just decide. And honestly, somebody said to me the other day, one of my close friends said to me, well, there were loads of people at school who just knew what they wanted. They always knew their purpose and what they were here for. And I was like, is that true though? Like, where do you think they got that from? Do you think that they literally were born knowing their purpose? Or is it possible that they were following the expectations of those around them, or a path that looked, how many little ones say, I want to be a vet, I want to be a policeman, they say the things they see. And so it's not until you start to realize that actually we get to create anything we want, that we start to really explore, well, what would that feel like if I really wanted to go and do something that looked like this, or even create something brand new, that I get to do that too. We wouldn't have a frame of reference for that as a kid. So Absolutely. It's so interesting that.
Yeah, I was that kid. I'm going to be a nurse. I know. And I structured my secondary school classes and stuff, because I knew that I wanted to be a nurse. And actually, I wanted to be a nurse because, like you said, that's what I could see. That's the kind of thing that fitted my wanting to help people and be like to be seen as some sort of leader and be that figurehead of helping people. But actually, that is still not what I'm doing. But you're right, nursing was what I could see fitted that kind of feeling to start with. And then we invent the rest ourselves, I guess.
That's it. Make it up as we go along. And especially in this online world, I think there's so many rules on this whole thing of like, well, what do we like? How do we do this? What's the recipe? What's the blueprint? What's the strategy that I'm supposed to follow to be successful, or to be a legit like online coach or an online business owner? And I'm like, we're all making it up. Right? We're literally, this industry didn't even exist 20 years ago. So we're really all making it up. And actually, when we just embrace it, we get to make up our own version that fits with our lives. That's why we do this, is like make it up, make what feels good to you fit for the people who want your help, and it's a win-win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just remembered, just as I was applying for nursing, I actually got a life coaching application pack as well. And that was at, I don't know, 17 years old. So
wow.
Really done a whole circle.
That's amazing.
Lots of info on the way.
Love it.
So funny. So what routines do you have through the day or through the week? And when do you do these things? And what is an absolute non-negotiable?
So I am a bit of a one for doing what feels good to me. So I have kids. You heard all the things I have, lots of hats in my life, and being rigid does not fit with me. It doesn't fit with who I am. I'm a bit of a rule breaker by design. And so if I had a like strict morning routine or evening routine or any time of the day routine, that would feel really restrictive to me. So it often is a thing. People presume, again, that like to be successful, you have to have structure and this rigid way of doing things. And really, for me, what works is following what feels good day to day and even minute to minute. But the important thing that I have really learned only again, I'd say in the last 2 years, is to really be able to notice that when I'm not feeling at my best, how to course correct, how to take a breath, build in a pause, and then reach for one of my tools and take a moment. So that might be that I need to just sit and do some breathing. It might be that I need to go and move my body, go for a walk, do a workout, do something. I have a rebounder that I love, and that is one of my non-negotiables is 15,000 steps a day. What's flexible about that is that I don't mind what form those steps take. They just have to come into play. And so the rebounder is a great excuse buster because I don't have to go anywhere. I specially bought one that doesn't have noisy springs, so I can even be on it while people are watching TV or whatever. And I'm going to hit my 15,000 steps. Now, when I don't do that, I really notice how I'm not in my body in the same way. So my 15,000 steps are non-negotiable. But as for time scale of what I do, nothing else. Everything else is like, okay, what feels good today? And I really honor what I want in the moment. And it's always a surprise. Like sometimes, even when I think, oh, that felt really good, I'm going to do that again tomorrow morning. I might wake up the next morning, the kids might have woken up in the night. There might have been something else that happened. And it just feels like hard work to do it. And so I'm never going to do something just because it's supposed to be done to tick a box. I'm going to do what feels good.
Oh, that's it's nice to hear, because I do often you know with all the manuals that one reads and it's all about getting up early and doing all the things to start your day, and it's nice to know that it doesn't have to be that way, and successful things still happen.
And I think that's the thing, because whenever we feel good, that's where the magic comes in. So it's about like, I prioritize my energy above everything else. And that sounds like simple, but that can be a real challenge, because sometimes there can be something that maybe I've said yes to before. And then on the day or the day before or whenever in the run up, I'm like, that feels like, oh, I don't want to do that thing. And if I really am, integrity is so important to me. And that includes to myself, or it starts with myself. If I'm then pushing myself to do something because I said I would, that is a compromise to my energy. So for me, it's about like, okay, well, what feels good today? Yes, okay, you might have said yes to something, but actually, if you say yes to that and you go and follow through, you're not going to be giving your best. And people deserve, if I'm showing up to something to spend time with you, you deserve the best of me, rather than me coming kind of going, oh, well, I'm here because I said I would be. Nobody benefits in that scenario.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I've asked you this before. How do you have a good telltale sign as to know when it's like your energy that you're protecting, or you're just trying to get out something you don't really want to do?
Yeah, I do. Well, I mean, they're kind of tying into the same thing now. Like, because if I don't want to do it, it does impact my energy.
Yeah.
So, but I used to be able to see that. I would say that what I am able to recognize now is that I might kid myself, right? So this goes into the whole thing about the subconscious, right? Subconscious like has this like default, oh, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is the frame of reference we know. And it will not, you cannot push yourself to go beyond that and sustain it. Yeah. So what might happen is you could say yes and be like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing, even though you're like, oh, no, we're not doing it. You'll push yourself to say yes, but then what will happen is you'll start to shrink away from it. And so what I do notice now is where I've said yes to something, let's say a good example is like speaking on a big stage, right? Speaking on a big stage, speaking on a huge podcast or something like that. Any kind of those invitations, I will like want to back and shrink away from, because I'm like, oh, and this is because an old identity of mine was that I was flaky and that I didn't really have it all figured out like all the other gurus do. And so, not that I ever want to be in that bracket, but because of that, my identity and my subconscious pattern is like, you're going to make a fool of yourself. Like you might, like, people might not like what you have to say. So I will tend to shrink away from that. That is where I have to do my own work and reach my own tools to reprogram those stories so that I can show up and let my message get into bigger hands. So I notice it where I'm like making excuses because something feels uncomfortable, but it's still for me, as opposed to like something I want to get out of because actually it's just not a fit, then I will say no.
Yeah. But how lovely is that to just live by your design. And actually, if you do decide that you don't want to do something, that you can just change your mind. You don't have to just force yourself to do it. And then you don't have to then stick yourself in a flaky bracket as well.
Yes. And it's, I mean, that has not been easy. That's been quite the journey for me to be able to embrace that, because best example I can give you is I was supposed to speak at an event in New York, and I was already in the US. I had gone to an event in California, which just happened to be perfectly lined up before I had to come back through New York. So I went to California, and then I was supposed to come back through New York, go to this event, and then fly home. And I came back across the country. I got to the East Coast. I didn't get quite to New York, but I went to visit a friend south of New York. And I kept trying to book my flights to go to this event. And I just kept on like being distracted or not booking, or like going to book a hotel and not booking, and nothing really felt like a fit. And I was like, why am I not doing this? And what I had to face there was, that was not a shrinking away from, that was this isn't a match for you. And I had to then have the really awkward conversation because I was right there. It's like I could have just gone, but again, it would have been like I wouldn't have been coming in integrity. And that was the challenge, was, am I in integrity? To keep myself in integrity, do I have to go because I said I would? Is that integrity? Or is integrity now honoring how I feel now? Yeah. And I'm like, well, being in integrity actually comes from how am I going to be when I'm there? And when I'm there feeling like this is not the model of integrity. Yeah. So I did have to have the conversation about 5 days out to say, look, I'm really sorry, but there's just something about this feels like I'm just not supposed to be there, which I know sounds flaky, but I know to me, that is me honoring myself and my energy above all else. That was a really hard call to make.
I imagine that would have been harder than having to actually force yourself to go.
It was. Yeah. The easy option was like, get over yourself, book a flight and just go to New York. And my return flight to the UK was from New York. So I still had to go to New York to get home. So it just seemed so strange. It was really quite the experience. But after that, I'm like, oh, I know what it feels like now to honor what feels true and right to me. And that's what I do.
I think, and the more that you do it, and the more that you listen to those little nudges, and then they prove to be absolutely right, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't go against it now. It's like my intuition, my inner guidance, it will move me or stop me in my tracks, because it's not going to let me go against what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I do think about often intuition moving you, but I don't often think about it, stopping you in your tracks. It does exactly the same thing. Oh, it's so interesting. We could literally talk about this forever.
Oh, for real, yeah.
Oh dear. And so I think it's my third and final question, or statement, as these are, is that I first properly met you. I actually think we met at Susie's birthday party.
We did.
And it took me so long to realise that it was you, because you were as a pink lady.
Yeah.
And I never put the two of you together for a long time after that, which is absolutely hilarious. But Susie's retreat was the first time that we kind of properly worked together. Over a year ago now. Where's that gone?
Yeah.
And then I completely kind of disappeared into your world after we did your access to intuition, which blew my mind. And that's quite a nice little caveat onto what we've just been talking about. but I hadn't even thought that I needed, I mean, I don't even think that I thought that I needed that within my working life before. And then when I came across it, I was like, oh my goodness, why haven't I been doing this before? Why didn't know about this before? Because it's, in one way, it's so simple and a part of us, but in another way, when we put so much effort into not listening to our intuition, it's just bonkers. And at that point, I'm going to read this word for word. In my opinion, you were the right balance between being like a normal person. I think that's a compliment. The woo and the science, all kind of rolled into one, because obviously you've got, when you're looking through people in this world, there are some people that are very strange. I mean, and they're saying all the same things, and they are just fully immersed in it, and it's wonderful. But I needed somebody that I could identify with.
Yes.
Do you still ever have resistance to the woo? And what would you say to people that are, I'm going to do this, like non-believers of any of the work that you talk about?
Oh God, this is so good. Okay. Oh, I feel like I have to okay, deep breath. Here we go. So I don't use the term woo. And really the reason is, I think, because I'm so open to, my whole premise is that I'm always open to having my perspective shifted. So I'm always interested when I'm in a conversation with somebody, like, how can this conversation allow me to see a different angle on something than I currently see? And so with that in mind, I don't have set in stone opinions on anything really. And I feel like that's what keeps me relatable to lots of things, because I'm always open to what else is possible, in short. And I really, really believe, because science is, for me, like, always been one of my fascinations. And I really, truly do believe that everything is energy. Everything is vibration, everything is frequency, and everything that we see in this physical form is just a different translation of that. And so when I really zoom out and I sink into that, okay, if everything is frequency and everything's vibration, then everything responds to noise and sound and, other frequencies that meet and combine. And so everything's just play. And when everything's play, why do we get so serious about things? And surely no opinion or fact ever really matters. So I sometimes find myself, what I describe as, I do sometimes go, even in my own house and in my conversation with my husband, and even on my own, I just go, am I so far down the rabbit hole that I can't even see what's saying anymore? Like, have I gone crazy? And worse than that, am I taking all my clients down a crazy rabbit hole too? I'm like, well, when I ask that, I stop and come back to, everybody seems to be having a good time. People are getting results. People are feeling really happy. So I don't need to concern myself with because again, crazy or not crazy, or, whatever term we want to use, like, it's all opinion and it's all perspective. Like, if I'm standing like 2 miles down the rabbit hole, being 2 inches down isn't really that big a deal. So it just depends where you are on the scale and what feels comfortable to you. What I do feel is really important is you do have to find your translation, right? It's like, what is going to be helpful to me right now? How can I find what is helpful in the translation that I can get on board with? And so, like, there are people, we see them on Instagram or wherever, they've almost developed their own language and it's hard to connect to. But for some people, that's what's needed. Some people need that, like, really out there, completely, like, off the scale of anything that's even fathomable to have seen or compared to anything else, in order to feel like that's what I need. Like, I need to be taken on that journey. So for me, I just know where my pin in the map is right now. I know what excites me. And I know that when we talk about, like, niche and focus and everything else like that, I've always said my niche, my audience are people who are attracted to my energy, which brings us back to what I was saying before about me prioritizing my energy, is because I know that, and because I know that everything we see and feel is energy, that when I lean into that and really allow my energy to lead and my enthusiasm and my passion for what I do to be the thing that I trust to bring the right people into my experience, then everything else is like so easy from there, because I'm not trying, you know, to like shoehorn my way into somebody else's method or anything like that, when I'm just following what feels good to me.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. Amazing, that whole circle, isn't it? And it just backs up looking after your own energy, and especially as women, we are pretty shocking at putting ourselves forward and being first. You know, it's instinct, it's learned instinct probably, that we or even just look like we're putting other people first all the time.
Yeah, it's the expectation that, you know, that the martyr, and I don't mean that in a like negative term, but the martyr archetype, that the woman in the family is supposed to carry all of the things. The woman is supposed to take care of all of the things. That was old. And we know now we're coming into a time where we're in the time where we're seeing, okay, well, that doesn't have to be how it is. And in order to kind of reposition that, there's work to be done. There's work to be done in ourselves as women, and there's work to be done with the people in the women's lives who are doing the work. And it's a societal shift that we're going through. And I'm excited to be in that, like living through that shift and that change. It's a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Big stuff for our daughters as well.
Yes.
Yeah, incredible. God, no, that's absolutely amazing. So people, we're keeping it real. The Amazon delivery man.
Oh, of course.
And the dog's going to go mad. So he just drives here automatically now.
Yeah, same. Our recycling bin was embarrassing yesterday. Absolutely.
Oh dear. So for people that have watched this vlog before, they know that everybody that I invite in, the idea of in the beginning was that I bought a couch that sits in here, and we were going to be on the couch. Obviously, I don't know if we were ever going to be on the couch, but you were welcome to come and visit whenever you like. But I quite like inviting people into the Zoom room couch. Is that I managed to steal just a little bit off of each person, so that I can put it into my private membership group, so it's nice and accessible for them. And so you are no exception. You have given me permission to use your hypnosis that you created right at the beginning of lockdown, isn't it?
I did, yes. Oh, I just got like, oh, those feelings as we said that. Yes, we're just remembering that, and just being at the time where we're at, where the kids are going back to school next week, like for real. And just the awareness that this has been a 6-month journey already is so mind-blowing. But I had, at the beginning of lockdown, I had just freshly come back from facilitating my own retreat in Bali. And we landed back in the UK on the 15th of March, which was just so insane to me. The world was shutting down behind us. And I could feel it when I came back into the UK. The fear was so real. And so this hypnosis was something that I designed to support my clients, firstly. And then I knew that it was something that people needed. And now it's going beyond even the fear and the lockdown, because it's really a hypnosis to help you just expand into your own personal power. So whether it's fear, whether it's anxiety, whether it's any kind of like feeling, you get to kind of dial that down and just bring it back into personal power using this hypnosis. It's really gorgeous.
Mark's used it before, which has been lovely. And with all the things that are just changing all of the time, and we're all kind of like really not quite certain about what on earth's going on. You can use it at every step of the way, can't you?
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. And I'm like, we need to change the wording around that, because it's going to work at all levels, wherever we are and whatever time of life we're in. That it was just the prompt for me to create it. And it's a really powerful way of that thing we spoke about the subconscious kind of stopping us from doing things because we're not a match for it, being able to just play with, oh, what if I was brave enough to go and do that thing?
Yeah, definitely. Are there any little, I don't know, whether hacks or tips or tricks that you use to kind of bring yourself back down in the moment? What do you use?
Yes. So one of my most favorite ones is what I call the anxiety leap. It's probably got its own name, but anxiety is something that I have experienced hugely in my life. And it wasn't until I started speaking about it that I realized how rife that is and how many of us live with anxiety. Honestly, I really thought there's something wrong with me because I used to just be so anxious all the time. And so the anxiety leap is really where I just take a second. It takes like 10 seconds to do this now. If I'm feeling anxious about something, and for me, it always used to be my tax bill. So I'll use that as an example. I see the tax bill is looming. It's got to come. Oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, it's always, the old story was that I never had it all sorted out. Thankfully, that's all changed now. And what I used to do was I would picture myself, close my eyes, just take a couple of breaths to really ground myself in now. And then I'll float up above now. Imagine, obviously, I'm not suggesting everybody goes and tries to float up, but just see myself floating up above now and then float out into the future until I am about 15 minutes past the successful resolution of whatever it is that's causing anxiety. So for me, it might be that paying the tax bill, or it might be getting on the phone to HMRC and resolving and putting a plan in place to know it's sorted. Whatever it is, I'm on 15 minutes on the other side of that being resolved. So I go, oh, everything's fine. And I land down there and I turn back around to face now. And I'm like, oh, everything's fine. I don't need to worry. And then I just see all the things recalibrating in my favor and come back to now. Oh, the anxiety's dialed down now. So that is one of my favorite ones. And I love sharing that with people.
Yeah. Oh, it's so lovely. That's, I was listening to, remind me of old Jim Fortin's podcast, and he was talking about nothing is a problem if there's a solution out there, and there generally is.
Always.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. Isn't that funny you said about anxiety? When I was suffering from it, I didn't even notice and as a nurse, I didn't even recognize that it was anxiety. It was all of the symptoms that I had recognized before, and didn't even realize it was the anxiety that was causing that. And it, like you, once you said it out loud, lots of people kind of related and were like, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not on your own. I think that's the most important thing. Anxiety, we all relate to that at some stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that was absolutely fantastic. I sound like Gary Barlow. That was absolutely fantastic.
Love it.
You get my golden buzzer, Laura Husson, any day of the week. Thank you so much for chatting away. We will we'll stop now. Maybe we'll come back and we'll do another one another time, so we don't send people to sleep. I don't think it ever would. Please tell everybody how we can get more of you.
Yes. Well, absolutely. The podcast just launched on Friday, so that is the best way. And this is the first time I'm saying this URL out loud, but the website to get subscribed to the podcast is www.thegetunstuckpodcast.com. You can come there, subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, all the places. And subscribe there, get all the updates, and there's a new episode every Friday.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you've got Facebook groups and all sorts associated with it as well.
Yes. It's
that's
so exciting.
Amazing. I can't wait. I usually do. When I'm on a dog walk, I go and binge listen to podcasts. So that's going to be on my list then.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And we'll say goodbye from here.
Thank you.
Bye.